Greetings sailors and welcome back to more live play, this time of the tier 7 Italian destroyer, which I've been able to unlock a couple of days ago, although as you can see from the XP I have played like 15, 16, 18 games in it so far. I don't have the best impression of this ship so far. It feels like barely an upgrade to the tier 6, and maybe it's just the case that the tier 6 is pretty good for its tier. At least in terms of what it can do with hit and run tactics and be able to torp things in between that. The Tarigo, it almost feels like a side grade. It's got one more barrel. I mean, it's the same class of ship, but I'm guessing it's one of the ones that was put in the water later. So there are some differences. I mean, visually it looks a little different. It's got twin funnels instead of the single funnel of the Avieri. And like I said, it's got the 3 twin mounts. But yeah, some things are pretty much the same. Like the reload is exactly the same. So you've got effectively a little more DPM with the extra barrel that you have, but it's not really a big effective increase in firepower. Your range has gone up to a maximum of 7.5 kilometers, but that's not necessarily a great thing when you're trying to do hit and run tactics with this. But the thing is, if you run with the stock module, which gives you 6.8, that's only barely better than your concealment of 6.5, so the concealment's gotten worse. The range has gotten a bit better. I mean, the concealment on this was what, 6.4, so yeah, it's only a little worse, but yeah, it's you know, it's worse for not really that much extra firepower. The torpedoes are literally identical, except for I think they reload 5 seconds faster. I think it's 5 seconds faster. Yeah, 5 seconds faster. They still have the same characteristics of being quite sneaky, but they're also slow. So although they've got that really nice 1.1 kilometer detection at 59 knots. Yeah, they're not fast by any means. They're not super slow, but 59 knots is not fast. I've actually respec'd Sansonetti since the video I played with the Avieri and the Misturale. And I've monkeyed around with it a bit, so I've dropped some things. I've basically made this almost identical to my Paolo Emilio Captain, because although some of the things were nice, like having swift fish, for instance, or like having that would be really nice, but whatever combination of captain skills you choose, you're always leaving something that would be incredibly useful on the table. So, I mean, Dazzle would be a super useful skill for the kind of hit and run tactics that you want to go for against other destroyers, but you know, that's a 4-point skill. And Swift in Silence would be useful for the extra bit of kick in speed when you're not using your speed boost, the whatever it's called, the really short duration one. But that has the cost of adding to your main battery time, and that's actually a skill I was using with these two. So I was playing the Avieri with nearly a 7-second reload, which was not that fun. And yes, you could take this for extra gun range, but maybe not that useful. It would also only be half a useful skill, because damage from AA shell explosions, you don't have any flak. I don't know if any of these ships have any flak. It's literally just your mid and short range AA mounts that put out any AA, and the AA is really not that good, so you maybe get a little benefit from this as well, but yeah, not that much. And obviously there's the usual stuff like priority target would be useful, and having grease the gears, and especially this would be useful because having to switch between SAP and HE is a thing you do have to do fairly often. The SAP is great against broadside targets, but especially broadside destroyers. It can be lethal. You can be doing 2.5-3k damage per salvo. But if they turn in, especially if they're completely bow on, you basically are just going to get more or less all shatters. You might get some superstructure hits which don't shatter, which do pound, but that's only going to be a couple of hundred damage at most, like what, 400, 500 damage per 6.5 second salvo, so that's not so great. So I've gone with this overall because, you know, you are going to lose damage during a game, so Adrenaline Rush means at least I'll get a faster reload during it, but it's really nice if I could have that and that, but I just can't find the points. And honestly, I think radio location I've settled on as being something of a must-have for this line, because you really need to have some idea where enemy destroyers are. Most of them are going to outspot you. I mean, there are ones that have worse concealment at this tier, but there are a lot of things you can run into which have much better concealment. So having some idea where enemy destroyers are to actually be able to then aim for them, as it were, to do your hit and runs, yeah, that would be pretty darn useful. And hell, even having IFHE might be useful for things like cruisers and stuff. But actually, having said that, no, I don't think IFHE would be really useful on this. I think the fact that you've got the SAP with its, what, 30 millimeters? 34 millimeters, so, you know, you might as well be using that. Sometimes I do use the HE to try and set fires on bigger targets and then switch to SAP to actually chunk some damage. In which case, having you know, completed that, thought, hey, Demo Expert would be useful skills. So there's just so much here that would be useful. And yeah, it's there's just not enough points to pick up all the skills that would actually be most useful for this. So you have some hard choices to make overall. Anyway, that's enough blethering about the ship itself. I mean, I haven't enjoyed it that much. I really haven't, so we'll see how this goes. Let's actually play some games. We've actually locked out with the matchmaking here. We're top tier, but having said that, there are carriers, so that's going to be awkward, because as I've said, this thing does not have good AA. None of this line seems to particularly have good AA. We also have some submarines, because yay, there was the micro patch yesterday, or the sub patch, or whatever you want to call it. Well, sub patch is actually very apt. I wasn't even trying to make a pun there, but yeah, submarines are back after only a few days of having no submarines, which was nice. So that's going to be an extra wonderful, awkward thing. Yeah. They have made some fairly, well, they've made some fairly strong changes to how subs take damage. But overall, I think subs are still going to be struggling to find a place in this game. They are still the round peg trying to fit into the square hole, or vice versa. Right, in terms of destroyers though, we outspot some of these. I think the Fushan we're about on a par with. That's what, 5.5, 5.6, something like that. Jervis, I honestly can't remember. I think that might have slightly better detection than I do, so that might outspot me. Mayhan I think is 6.6. Yudachi I'm pretty sure is like 6.6, 6.7. None of these are super stealthy. Only 2 cruisers and 3 battleships, so yeah, everyone's jumping in their submarines, yay! So we'll see how this goes. Yeah. Now this overall, just to go off what I was saying, I think one of the reasons why I've enjoyed it less is partly the matchmaking is harsher. You see a lot more things with radar, and you can see, well, I mean, you can see your tier 8 carriers and your tier 6s, but it, like, you're going to see harsher matchmaking more often in this. And so overall, the fact that it's, you know, worse in some ways than the tier 6, I would almost, in some circumstances, prefer to be in the tier 6, because you have the little bit of extra stealth. The downgrade in firepower is not that bad. And why am I using HE there? That should be SAP loaded. And just generally speaking overall, yeah, like the extra 5 seconds of torp reload, the extra 700 meters of maximum gun range, it just doesn't quite feel worth it. It's not like you get extra consumables like going from tier 5 to tier 6. The handling in the water is actually worse, which is a bit of a problem when you're trying to dodge. I think the speed is it's either barely better or about the same. I honestly can't remember. But yeah, I was actually a bit miffed to find the torpedoes are literally the exact same, which is effectively a downgrade for the tier. I mean, the idea is that they transition away from the torpedoes to the higher tiers. That was over 4K. That was a really good hit. That, you know, the guns become of more importance, and I can see the logic there, but it puts this at tier 7 in a really awkward spot, just because you don't have any particular effective feeling increase in firepower. One extra barrel, like, it's not that good. Especially when you're saddled with the same 6.5. Like, if it had gone down to 6.3, 6.2, like, maybe. But yeah, and you're facing, you know, a lot of stuff that has a faster rate of fire than you. So overall, yeah, I'm going to have to ping smoke here, aren't I? No one else is spotting for me, but no one else is here generally. That's not so good, actually. I have a bunch of ships here. I think we're just going to have to leg it out of here. That Jaws is nearly dead. Yeah, okay, let's just GTFO. We don't have any particular backup. I don't really trust the U-69 to do anything useful, and we also have a carrier flying around the place, so yeah, that's going to be annoying. Yeah, I kind of wish I could have at least taken the skill that gives you a little bit of extra. Like, I've got the extra smoke time flag, but I was unable to find the points to put on the skill that gives you some extra runtime when you smoke. So that would certainly be useful. A bit of extra. I think I might just be dead here. Like, you never, if you can't get away from them, then yeah, the smoke just doesn't last long enough if you don't have allies. Now he's bow on. Oh. And this is where no, see, I've switched to HG now. Like, that long reload, so this is where having the ability to reload quick will be super useful. Because when they're manoeuvring, if they go a bit bow on, then you need the HG, but if they're broadside, you need the SAP. It's awkward. I mean, that's the same with the tier 6, but yeah, I think I'm dead. Well, that was rather short and brutal. Never mind. I didn't pay enough attention to the fact that basically nobody came over on this side. So, yeah. See how they're doing on the other flank. I don't know. It's hard to tell. This Mackinson's now kind of over there by himself. We can maybe watch this U-69 for a little bit, see how they're doing. Trying to do something against the Mayhem. One-on-one, you know, if you can get into a one-on-one, I'm going to run in and trade with you and use my SAP, then that's fine. But if there's more than one destroyer that you're running into and you don't have any backup, then there's nothing you can do but run, essentially, and maybe try and drop some torpedoes down and hope that you get lucky. And I have had that work sometimes, just because they have such a low... oh, yeah, I think this one's probably going to be lost. Oof. They just have such a low detection. I think the only torps that have better stealth are deep water torpedoes, which of course cannot hit destroyers. So that's one of the good aspects of the torpedoes, but the fact that there is no damage increase from tier 6 to tier 7 is kind of ouchy. And I think the tier 8s might also be 10,000, I can't remember. I think tier 9 and tier 10 does seem a damage increase. I was looking this up the other day, and yeah, I think you're kind of out of luck there, U-69. Yeah, you're about to get depth charged as well as everything else. Well, we're about to see the sub get sunk, so that's a thing. Yeah. I think we'll just skip ahead. I don't think there's any way this one's going to be a win. We've just lost far too many ships, and we have no map control right now, so yeah. There's not much else to do here except just watch the inevitable failure. Well, this is going about as well as expected. Yeah, we only killed 3 ships. There we go, that's going to be the final blow that finishes the game. Oh well. I don't think there was much chance of turning that one around somehow. Oh dear lord, I was 3rd place on the team despite being one of the first to go down. I mean, that says it all, really. Oh dear. Yeah, some teams are just never going to win, and there's literally nothing as a player you can do about it. So yeah, I'm not going to feel too bad about that. Even if I had read the situation a bit better and bailed sooner, it wouldn't have made a difference. It really wouldn't have. Let's try that again. Right, this time it's a bottom tier game. No submarines, which is nice, but there is a radar to worry about. And both of these definitely outspot me. Can't remember what the makeup. I think that probably does outspot me as well. That's what, 6.2, 6.3, something like that? Or is it 6.1? I can't remember. But yeah, everything outspots me, basically. There's also a pair of Harbins, which I will have to watch out for. They have a fast rate of fire, so I don't want to end up close to any of them. And of course, the Neptune's going to be nasty too, potentially. In terms of the battleships, though, I mean, obviously, if one of those is secondary spec, that could be a problem. But yeah, I've not had any opportunities to really run in against a low health enemy with the smoke and just finish them off with the torps, point blank range, Yolo Emilio style, just because the torpedoes on the Yolo Emilio are so much better than basically any of the tech tree, or the preview line as it is at the moment, but as the tech tree will be. Because yeah, when you've got 6 of these, and you have to bear in mind that, you know, most ships at this tier have some level, or anything bigger than a destroyer anyway, has some level of anti-torpedo protection. You're looking at like, you know, maybe potentially 1,000, 2,000 damage off each torpedo hit. So yeah, unless it's a super low health ship to begin with, like some of the cruisers that you can meet. I mean, Atlanta's what, 27k? Chumphon's the same. Harbin's probably not much better. Some of the cruisers just don't have that much health, so you could potentially finish them off with one fell swoop. But the battleships, forget it. You just don't have the hitting power. Not even a little. So I want to try and preserve my smokes. And fortunately for me, the 2 allied destroyers that are going for the caps are way stealthier than I am, so that's fine. Hugo is outside of the top range just yet, actually turning away. We'll see if we can spot anything. Okay, there's the Mirka. There's the Kronstadt. That's not what we wanted to see on this flank. Erlin's up there, so that is just the Akatsuki unaccounted for. And there he is. I actually apparently outspot him by a fair bit, because he's not using camo. And at 7 point whatever kilometers, are they even using concealment expert? Don't know. Right, is it worth trying to? I would have the element of surprise. His broadside. We'll see if my allies take some pot shots first. I mean, there's a Sejong right there. Come on, guys. Just lighting this destroyer up for you very nicely. Going without camo, you know, without camo or concealment expert. That's a bold choice. Oh, there's a radar. Might as well take a pop. It's not quite enough lead, but still some damage. Obviously no point doing smoke just now. Are you turning? Yep, okay. You almost have to wait for broadsides to use the SAP, but I mean, it's worth it. You can see why they didn't give them a a good rate of fire, because the SAP is just, it's absolutely nasty against enemy destroyers. But a little bit better rate of fire compared to the tier 7 would have been nice, even if it was just, you know, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 of a second. Right, there we go. Now, as this is Sansonetti, I've actually now got a main battery range bump to 8.1 kilometers apparently. So, yay! I don't know. May or may not be useful, probably not really. One of the downsides of the short range is that once there are much more radars in play to worry about, or many more radars in play to worry about, that the extra bit of range from Sansonetti really doesn't matter, because yeah, the smoke isn't going to save you, especially if somebody's close enough to radar. And if you're within gun range, it's unlikely that you'll be able to run out of radar range before their radar goes off. Right, let's see if we can torp some stuff. Or do we go and help the Kagero? Maybe we go and help the Kagero, actually. That might not be the worst idea, rather than trying to drop slow torpedoes on things that are likely to be turning away. Are you going forwards, Tirpitz? I mean, you are, but not quickly. I could try dropping... Lepanto is probably going to turn against the border. Yeah, let's just go help the Kagero. Did a Cossack just gun down? Well, gunned down. They got the finishing blow. Oh, there's the Maker. Right, Tirpitz is nearly in range. I think... Oh, well, never mind. I guess we can maybe try and drop some torpedoes on this Tirpitz, after all. That is a decent blob of ships, but they might be able to keep them contained for long enough. I guess we'll see. I don't actually know, and this is something I was trying to look up, but I don't actually know what the flood chance of these torpedoes is. It would be nice, and that's another captain skill you could take. Oh, hello Kronstadt. Right, we're actually pretty near the edge of their radar range there, so that's fine, but... There we go. Don't particularly want to get whacked by Tirpitz secondaries. So I'm playing it a bit cautious in terms of... going to place. Why do people do that? I mean, if it doesn't work the first time with pinging off your AA, then I don't know. It's not like my AA would be turned on because I mean, you might catch somebody out, I suppose. It's not impossible that you would, but yeah, it just still seems a little silly to me sometimes that yeah, people try. And even if you had like quad launchers, I'm guessing that the Soldati class as a whole just never had more than triple launchers, so it would have to be kind of fictitious for them to have quad launchers, perhaps. But yeah, I just feel like I've had less impact on games with this than I had with the tier 6, and even the tier 5. Because you go from something that's got both usable torpedoes and can still blap other destroyers to, well, you can blap other destroyers, but the torpedoes just become less and less usable in terms of speeds, damage, etc, etc. Gosh, that Tirpitz still alive somehow. Could try and set a fire below one of my smokes. I mean, their radar is out, so that's... yeah. Well, the question is somebody else spotting this turpitch right now? If I smoke up, is that gonna... Dunno. I have to say, having played these as a whole though, I mean, fuel smoke on a destroyer, I do like that idea, that concept. I've liked it more on the lower tiers, where it's felt a little more effective, but yeah, just being able to maintain speed and use smoke, it's, I mean, it's not new, it's a thing we've had on both the cruisers and the battleships for a bit now, but it's got its most useful, it's got the most utility on a destroyer, I feel, compared to the cruisers and the battleships, where it's more of a maneuvering tool than anything else. You can use it much more tactically, effectively, I think, on a destroyer. Offensively, even, as opposed to defensively. Right, why was I thinking the Kronstadt's out of action? No, they're still very much still alive. No point dropping torps on a thing that's going away. This might be a very low damage game, and there's the radar. Using AP. HC, I don't know. Panto secondaries. Would you have to put secondary skills to get your Panto secondaries firing at that range? I don't know, that feels like a waste. I don't think they've got a base range of like 10 kilometers. Maybe there is some strange person out there that's building their high-tier Italian battleships for secondary spec. I don't know. It's not what I do, but anyway. Right, I think we've pretty much got this in the bag, to be honest. Kronstadt has used, what, 3 radars? Is it 2 or 3? I haven't been paying attention enough. They could potentially still have at least 1. Maybe even 2. Oh well, I might get to cap at least. Chances of even getting close enough to do damage are... Yeah, I do miss the extra speed of Swift in Silence. But I thought for 4 points it just wasn't worth it when radio location was going to be that much more useful. And it's nice to have the reload debuff removed. I mean, if you had Swift in Silence plus the... whatever it's called. I still call it BFT, but it's not BFT on destroyers anymore, is it? But yeah, the thing that increases your main battery reload, you can basically cancel the 2 out. And then if you somehow worked in your adrenaline rush skill as well, obviously that would potentially, you know, once you've taken some damage, get you to sub 6 seconds. But yeah, there's just not enough captain points. We may be able to rush the Kronstadt at this point, although it does come down to like radio location helps, but you know, if nobody's spotting the thing that you're trying to rush, obviously that can be an issue. Right, there's a radar. Hello, Kronstadt. Are you using AP shells? Yes, you are. Well, that's fine for me. Should we try this? My torpedo tubes are loaded. Well, I do have a speed boost available. Ooh. Oh, hello, Neptune. Oh, now you're loading the high explosive. So, yeah, I can, in theory, do the torp business and then just GTFO with my fuel smoke. Right, obviously... Whoa! No, never mind, he reloaded before I could, but I still got the kill. It's just he reloaded before... Like, I was too close to smoke from him, being within the 2 kilometers. Anyway, he's dead. I did actually get to torpedo something and do the usual YOLO Emilio tactic of rush in, die. Yeah, we're going to win this one. There's only 3 enemies left, so that's fine. I think having done that is not necessarily a terrible use of my time. Especially being bottom tier. Nuked that Shiratsuyu and then getting a kill on a tier 9. My XP actually ought to be fairly decent. Well, we're making a bit of a meal of this. Our Bismarck died entirely unnecessarily because apparently they had never heard of angling as a thing and got shot in the side by both the Colorado and the Lepanto. The Colorado's dead now. The Neptune and the Lepanto still very much alive, and now our De Grossa is worryingly broadside to the Lepanto, so we'll see which side their guns are aimed, I guess. Yeah, this must be at least a partial secondary spec on the Lepanto. I don't think I've ever seen a Lepanto with secondaries that long-ranged before. It's definitely a novelty. We're decently ahead on points. We still have a destroyer, and they have no way to counter said destroyer. But we do need to, you know, not lose any more remaining ships. That would be good. At least the De Grossa is being rather more sensible in terms of manoeuvring than the Bismarck was, which was just a totally unnecessary kill for the enemy. Oh, there we go. Wow. Well done, that Kigero. Okay, they actually were able to finish off the Neptune with their guns in the smoke. I wonder if they're taking a hit from something else or a torpedo or something to make them low health enough. Anyway, just the Lepanto left now. Actually see a Sejong up close and personal. I can't remember if this is the... Is this the Tech Tree Tier 9 or is this the Premium? No, the Dalian's the Premium, isn't it? I really haven't seen many of those. I guess not too many people were desperately excited for a very squishy Tier 9 cruiser that had short range and not an amazing amount of, you know, anything else to go with it. Well, having said short range, you can of course at Tier 9 make the range decent, but then you're struggling with the horrible ballistics. Yeah, that was decent XP. 1426. I've had loads of games like this where I'm in the top half of the team, but there's absolutely no way I'd ever use it for YouTube if I wasn't recording live. So they're okay overall. I mean, like I said, I've said many times, I've been struggling way more with the Tarigo in terms of being effective, but it's definitely not complete rubbish. I can at least be somewhat consistent with it in terms of placing up on the score screens and having some influence on whether we win or not. But yeah, it's kind of hard to make. You know, they don't really make for good replay material, or at least they haven't yet. Maybe I just need to figure out some different way to play them. I don't know. I don't exactly have a lot of experience with the Paolo Emilio, but they really don't particularly play like the Paolo Emilio, which has, I mean, look at that, 23k, nearly 24k damage, and they're faster. It doesn't really matter that they're lower range. If you're trying to do the same thing with the Tech Tree Tier 9, no, that's not Tech Tree. Tech Tree's what I want. Not my profile. Where is it? The Adriatico, which has actually slower torpedoes, 56 knots, and it's still 10,000. I thought it actually went up at Tier 9. I guess I was wrong. So yeah, the Cuniberti has that'll be a stock torpedoes, won't it? Yeah, it gets 12 kilometers, much longer reload. Well, I say much longer, but still, minute and a half is kind of on the long side for wimpy torps. 56 knots, and the Tier 9 has upgraded torps. 12,667. Yeah, I mean, having said they're the second stealthiest set of torps, they're also the second weakest set of torps next to the Swedish destroyers. But of course, those have a way faster speed, and especially at the high tiers. I mean, yeah, I think they reliably reload faster as well, and you get more of them. So yeah, it's awkward. It's awkward, and they've made this line not very consistent, because the mid tiers definitely play around the torps, which are, you know, still kind of weak for the tier, but not excessively weak for the tier. But then when you've got to like tier 9, tier 10, and they are barely an upgrade, yeah, you are way more reliant on the guns. But that's going to be trickier, just because there's going to be that many more radars, powerful hydros and such forth around. So I don't know if I'm going to enjoy the higher tiers as much as I've liked the two mid tiers. I haven't even played the Turbine yet, but that's probably decent enough as well, I imagine. I mean, it's only got the 4 guns, and the reload isn't anything amazing, I don't think. It's probably going to be fairly naff. 5.5, but you know, things are a bit more free and loose at tier 4 generally. It's still going to have carries to deal with, but yeah. Anyway, so this is shaping up to be a line where I might enjoy part of it, but not the whole thing by any means. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm going to have to do some further grinding for tokens before I can get the tier 8. And I think I probably will manage to get the tier 8 before the preview period ends. So I guess that'll save me some actual line grinding later on. Anyway, that's enough rambling. This has been going on for long enough, so hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you have, you can do all the usual things down underneath it, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.